today I'm going to shift a little, just like you rightly said. I'm going to shift a little to help our listeners understand when I move into transformational coaching and, which aspect women benefit from, they would understand it better. So we are going to be looking at how coaching emerged and has evolved. And we are going to look at the difference between coaching and the other modalities, that is counseling and mentoring. Many times people mix it up, and so we are going to look at the differences. And finally, we are going to look at what coaching is.
And sometimes people even switch the meanings.
Yes, they switched it. And everybody is a coach now. So so we are going to see the distinctions. But I'd like to start with a saying, a quote by Oprah Winfrey. And she said, and I quote, "In the past 25 years of my life, the greatest accomplishment I have made have come as a result of working with a coach," unquote. And it is said that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs have been quoted as saying everybody needs a coach. And that tells you the importance of coaching. So like I said, I'm going to take it systematically, and I hope I finish today. I finish what I
promise.
have.
I promise I'm not going to talk too much.
I hope I finish. So the field of coaching is new, and I'm saying it's new because unlike professions like law and medicine that has been in existence for over 100 years, coaching is relatively new. Okay, it started around the 1970s and got really structured within the 1990s, and it emerged to meet new unprecedented rate of change and complexities that was due in society. As society was growing and evolving, there were lots of complexities that were coming in. Structures moved from being fixed to being fluid. Okay, so you had roles changing. At first men would work, women would stay at home. That was shifting. Roles of men were shifting, roles of women were shifting. A lot of things were shifting. Relationships were shifting. Okay, there were breakups. All kinds of things were shifting. And there was also, at that time, around that period, the rapid change and complexity with the introduction of computers, cell phones, and World Wide Web around that period. So there was a need for what we call just-in-time learning to support the workplace at that time. And so there's this man who, his name is the name that comes to mind when you think about coaching. And he introduced Thomas Leonard. Now, he was an accountant. I'll tell you his story. I mean, and that informs how traditional coaching became what it is. He was an accountant, and it is said that he was also difficult to deal with. He was difficult to deal with, and so he did all.
I'm so tempted to say something.
I
was saying it.
And so he did all his coaching by phone. So he never saw his clients face to face. He did all his coaching by phone. And so by virtue of his own personality, okay, and his what he wanted to achieve out of coaching, traditional coaching was more linear. Okay, traditional coaching was more linear, more logical, so that the emphasis was on setting goals, which it still is. So the emphasis was on setting goals, developing strategies, taking action, and recording outcomes. Okay, so if you look at the branch of coaching that is in the public eye, which is usually executive coaching, performance coaching, business coaching, they are all geared towards performance, enhancing performance, maximizing performance as a result of, Thomas Leonard. In fact, he's the one who introduced International Coaching Federation, the body that is responsible for ethics and developing coaches. And so it started out performance, enhancing performance. Okay, then it evolved. So there was the human potential movement and the person who comes to mind is Laura Whitworth. Now, at that time, human potential movement was, if you have done, let me just go into psychology a little. When you think about client-centered Rogerian counseling and Abraham Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, all those fall within human potential movement, where we were looking at the human being as a whole and not just performance, not just maximizing performance. Okay, so she also came in and she focused on the whole individual. Okay, bringing out the best in the individual. So you are looking at the individual's values, you are looking at the feelings, you are looking at the dignity of that individual. totality of that individual. Okay, that was a human potential movement. And so Laura's, what she came up with was more of creating what we call a, she came up with what we call a co-active model.
Mm-hmm.
And her co-active model focused on both the individual and the group. Unlike Thomas, who focused on the individual and the emphasis was on performance. Okay, his emphasis was on performance. Now, for her, her aim was in coaching was to create relationships that would hold space for people who wanted to make progress in their life. Okay, so there was more emphasis, it was more transformative, and there was more emphasis on collaboration, collaborating with others, okay, in order to move into your next level. So that was, you see how it's evolving. And then there was the self-help training model. So from performance to collaboration to self-help training model. So the self-help training model, and the name that comes to me is Anthony Robbins. Okay, now he looked at it also from another angle. And the influence he was looking at, there was the mix of large group awareness, okay, self-help training. The focus was on self-help training. So participants were taught that they were responsible for their own life outcomes. Okay, so he was creating a mind shift here. They were responsible for their own life outcomes, and they were given the opportunity to re-examine their beliefs systems and the reflex pattern of living. I will explain it. That kept their lives from working the way it was. Okay, so for him, your belief, what you believed in, if you gave a meaning to a certain thing, okay, and you believed that, it informed the way you behaved. Mm-hmm. And there were patterns in our life that somebody would say repeatedly, I find that I can't say no. Or repeatedly, I find, so that's the pattern, okay? And he's saying that you have to trace it to your belief. What were you taught? What do you believe? Do you believe that people must always give? Do you believe? So your beliefs inform your actions. And if you would look back at your beliefs and your reflex patterns of living, then you would be able to skew your life in the direction that you wanted. So you see how it was progressing from performance into collaboration, into self-help, okay? And so coaching continued to evolve and will continue to evolve. Okay, in our next session, I'll talk about how the traditional coaching and the transformational coaching and where the shifts are. Okay, so I'm moving into the difference in the modalities between coaching and other modalities. So I'm first going to look at the difference between coaching and psychotherapy, which is one modality. Okay, so psychotherapy is oriented towards illness and trauma. Okay, so if you have an individual who has been traumatized and she wants to commit suicide and she hurts herself, there are people who cut themselves. That person cannot see a coach. Okay, that person has to see a psychotherapist because they are oriented towards illness and trauma. I'm going through it systematically. They deal with dysfunctional emotional and behavioral problems. Dysfunctional emotional, and there are instances where people have so much fear that they prefer to hide behind, go close to the corner in a room, and a lot of behavioral dysfunctions. They focus on the past and disruptive problems, okay, problems of disruption, hurting yourself, wanting to kill somebody, severe illnesses and trauma. They are aimed at restoring the client to the adequate function. Okay, to adequate function. That's psychotherapy. So in the case of coaching in this regard, coaching focuses on achievement and fulfillment of your goals or fulfillment of your outcomes. Okay, so if you're dealing with somebody who is ill and has gone through trauma, that person is finding it difficult. You can't even talk about achievement and fulfillment of goals. Okay, coaching looks at excellence and human, potential, excellence and human potential. It is done with an already functional person, somebody who can think through their outcomes, decide on what outcomes they want. Okay, not someone who is not functional. okay, or who is dysfunctional and exhibiting emotional and behavioral problems. Now, there's a need for safety. If you take somebody who, I said earlier, for instance, that John Thomas, did all his coaching on phone.
Thomas Leonard.
Yes, did all his coaching on phone. He never saw his client, but he was an excellent. And if he introduced International Coaching Federation and all, then you can tell that he did an excellent job. So if you look at coaching in respect to psychotherapy, you cannot have coaching on phone with someone who is ill and traumatized and is exhibiting dysfunctional emotions. So those are the differences. So in the case of coaching, you can have it with somebody on phone, you can have it online, you can have it in person. Okay, so traditional coaching can be done in these ways. So that is the difference for psychotherapy, and I'm repeating it. It's oriented towards illness and trauma, deals with dysfunctional emotional and behavioral problems. It focuses on the past and disruptive problems. So the psychotherapy goes into your past to find out the root cause of the disruptive problem. Okay, a coach does it differently. Then we are going to look at the difference between the coaching and counseling. Okay, so many times people say, I want you to see a counselor, and the issue is not counseling related, or I want you to see a coach. So I'm going to look at the differences here. So counseling is more aligned to psychotherapy. Okay, because in counseling you are also you're applying most of the skills that psychotherapists would use. So, like deep listening, which a coach would also use, empathy, which a coach would also use. Okay, supporting the individual to address and resolve issues. Okay, it addresses issues like anxiety. So if somebody is anxious, the person can see a counselor, sorry. Depressed, but not depressed to the point where they are cutting themselves. That becomes you have to refer to a psychotherapist. Okay, so counseling addresses issues like anxiety, depression, mood disorders, trauma, relationships, and addiction. Sometimes people go through relationships, heartbreak, and it can be traumatizing for them. Okay,
That's
so
quite commonplace these days, isn't
pardon?
it? That's quite commonplace these days.
It is, and this person can see a counselor. But if the person is going through extreme trauma as a result of the breakup and has started wanting to hang themselves or commit suicide, that is no longer the work of a counselor. The counselor has to refer the issue to the psychotherapist. Okay, so if you compare this, coaching moves a client towards their outcome rather than supporting them through a crisis. Okay, so in coaching, I am moving you towards your outcome. You have stated the outcome, and we are working towards achieving that outcome. Whilst in counseling, I am supporting you through a crisis. Okay, when someone is in the midst of an emotional crisis and trigger intense emotions, they need to see a counselor, not a coach. Okay, now repeat that. When someone is in the midst of an emotional crisis and trigger immense emotions, they need to see a counselor, not a coach. And so if you are a coach and you have the advantage of being a counselor and as a coach as well, a trained counselor and a trained coach, I think an advantage I have, you would have to let the counselor, the client know that you are shifting into counseling, because how you are going to approach it is going to be different from how you'd approach it in coaching. So if you see that the person is going through anxiety and their relationship related issues that is making emotional, you will tell the person that we are going to be doing counseling and not coaching. Okay, and when the person has come out of that phase, then we can move into coaching, because then that person is ready now to look at their outcome, to create their outcome and work towards achieving that outcome. Okay, so we are now going to we are moving to mentoring. Okay, now mentoring is when a mentor is someone who has mastery in an area and offers that experience. Okay, so I could have mastery in teaching, or I could have mastery somebody could have mastery in marketing,
Or playing the saxophone.
or cooking, and use their mastery to offer help, or to their experience to help another person, okay, to learn. And so it is sharing or guiding from one's own experience as a specific area of industry or career development. So my own experience. So I'm telling you that, okay, this is how I did it. Okay, and you could also do it that way. So I'm virtually, it is more led by me than led by the person. Okay, so the person has the experience and the person has knowledge in that area, and the person is using their own experience and their own knowledge to move you into your next level. Whilst coaching is not, coaches are not mentors to those they coach. Even though you may be demonstrating empathy through the coach. When I go to transformational coaching, you understand this better. In order for the coachee to learn, but you are not to be a mentor. You are not to tell the the coachee, that I did it this way, so you can also do it this way. That's a no-no in coaching. If you bring that into coaching, then you are going to take permission from the coachee and tell the coachee, I would like to use an experience I had to share with you to see if you can get something out of it for your own experience. Do I have your permission to do so? If she says yes, then you can do that. Okay, but you don't go ahead and say, okay, I did it this way, you can also do it this way. It's advice. You have shifted completely. You are no longer coaching. You're either mentoring or guiding.
But this is such an important point that, I just wanted to, just say this, that I suppose the issue that we have with all of these coaching, mentoring, therapy, counseling, is our ability or otherwise to properly diagnose what we think the problem is.
Yes.
And so you can begin to imagine the sphere of damage that we're causing.
Yeah. And you've said, what you've said is so powerful, because there are instances where people have been disappointed by going to see a counselor because they were provided guidance. That's why we have guidance and counseling. Okay, which means there are two distinct things, different. Okay, so they were told what to do, they were told that, and so they come out more disturbed than,
So what we're saying is that coaching is not the same as mentoring.
No.
Which is not the same as counseling.
Which is not
the same as psychotherapy.
Yes.
It's absolutely important that we get the differences. I mean, the safest thing to do, I always say that if you need help, just shout.
Yes.
Find a professional to do it and let them do it properly. Otherwise, we're going to be working with our people in our institutions and think we're doing the right thing, and we're just going to be getting wrong results.
They tell you they are counselors in the schools, or they are counselors, and they are providing guidance, not counseling. And people are being told what to do and what not to do, what subjects to select, what subjects not to select. So I think it's food for thought. Okay,
let me allow you to finish.
Yes, and then you can be, I'm emphasizing something here under coaching. I said coaches are not mentors to those they coach. You are not going into the coaching to mentor the person you are coaching. Your behavior, your attention to detail, maybe the way you keep to time, you keep to it will teach the person something, but you are not there to say that you are using your experience to more or less to tell the person what to do. And another thing I want to say here is that you can be a masterful coach in an area that you have absolutely no knowledge or experience. Okay, and I'll explain. I can coach a doctor, but I don't have to be a doctor. I can coach an engineer. I don't have to be an engineer, because the methodology is basically I'm helping the person identify his outcome. Okay, I'm helping the person identify his inner barriers that is standing in the way of him achieving those outcomes. We are breaking through those barriers and we are coming up with a destiny pathway. Okay, so there is a skill to it. So I don't have to be a pilot to coach a pilot, because I'm not a technical, but I have to be a pilot to mentor a pilot. So you see the difference. In mentoring, I have knowledge and experience in that field, and that is what I'm using my experience. In coaching, I don't have to. You could coach anybody in any field, okay? Because basically, you are going through a particular process, and you are helping that person in the end achieve the outcomes they want in the areas they stated.
And I suppose I'm quiet also because the content or the data on all of these specific areas has been quite confused in the past, haven't they?
I think they are there. They are there.
Because I'm sure when we get interactive, some of my listeners will tell me that there's a slight confusion for them in their minds between what they thought coaching was.
And I'll go to athletic coaching. Maybe that would help. People feel coaching is somebody comes, and when in the next session, we'll talk about the various branches of coaching.
Perhaps that will bring a bit more clarity.
So that you understand the difference between performance coaching, an executive coach, a transformational coach, a life coach, a skills development coach. There are differences, so that you know exactly who do I go to if I have this particular need. Okay, so I'm shifting now into training. The difference between coaching versus training, and a lot of organizations are doing training and saying they are doing coaching. A lot, and I know a lot. They are doing training and they are saying they are doing coaching. So the distinction is this: training is based on the training based on the meeting of a certain learning outcome as set out by the trainer or instructor. Okay, so in training, I have set the outcome. So I'll give you an example. They've said that, okay, the HR department, we want you to train on customer service. So we have set the outcome. So the trainer is going to sit down. I'm going to sit down and look at what the needs are and create something to come and train in the area of customer service. In coaching, the coachee is setting their outcome. I am not setting it for them. Okay, so the learning objective is set in training by the trainer and the instructor. The purpose is to provide learning and expertise to the group. There is a linear learning path with set curriculum. So we'll cover this, we'll cover that, we'll cover that. That's training. In coaching, coaching can be used to support the learning process here. Here, the coaching objectives are set according to the objectives of the training program, and I'll explain. So you can have training on customer service. Training, when I say training, it means the trainer has set the curriculum, the content, the learning outcomes, the objectives at the end of the training. What does he want to see in the trainees? He's done all of that and done the training. Then you can support it with coaching in the sense that now what was taught, individuals or groups with group coaching or individual coaching, you are now causing them to create their own outcome. So we did customer service. So for you, what is the area in customer service that you want growth in? So mine will be different from yours. Okay, but it's still the customer service. So we can use coaching to now support and get that individual to now set his own outcome within the customer service and work with him or her to identify what are the inner barriers, what is stopping you from achieving it, how do we break through those inner barriers, and they create their pathway. Okay, and so you've used coaching to support training. You've got it.
Where they bring out their specific needs based on their specific area of operation.
So they are directing, whilst in the training, the trainer was directing the course of events. Okay. Then we are going to look at athletic coaching, athletic development. Many people see, and I'll go to sports, where you see the coach on the sports field. The technique he's using is different from the technique a coach would use, okay? So the athletic development coach, for instance, the coach is often seen as an expert who guides and directs the behavior of individuals or teams based on their greater experience or knowledge, okay? So I have seen that this person, I'm not very good with football. I like to see it, when they score the goal, but I'm not very But you may observe a particular player on the field and say that this person will be good at what side? Give me the areas on the football field, but this area would know how to play
in the midfield,
or whatever,
in
the defense. So he's observing and saying this person will do well here, so I'm going to train that person to go into that. Okay, that's what the athletic coach is doing. The professional coach is different from the sports coaching. Coaches possess these qualities, but it is the experience and knowledge of the individual or team that determines the direction. Not the athletic coach who determines the direction. Okay, so I may see that you are good here, but in coaching, you have to get you to create your outcome. Okay, and we work through your outcome. I hope I'm making sense here with the athletic development coach. And then we are looking at consulting. Okay, so the difference between the consulting, coaching versus consulting. So if I take consulting, they provide specialized expertise to individuals and organizations. So the assumption is that the consultant diagnoses a problem within the organization, then prescribes and implements. Okay, so he says, you say maybe there's an issue with customer service or with marketing or with sales. So he comes in, diagnoses the problem, and prescribes what should be done and implements the solution with you Okay, gets the people to implement a solution. The coach, on the other hand, the assumption in traditional coaching is that individuals or teams are capable of generating their own solutions, with the coach supplying supportive discovery-based approaches and framework. Okay, so the coach is not going to diagnose and then the problem and prescribe and implement like the consultant will do. So each one has its place, and each one is important depending on what your need is.
They perform a different function also.
Yes, they perform a different function depending on what your need is. So I'm going to conclude with just the definition of coaching. Okay, and I'm using the International Coaching Federation definition, and it says it is a profession that supports personal and professional growth and development based on individuals' initiated change. Individuals, not the organization's initiated change, but the individual. Individuals initiated change in pursuit of specific actionable outcomes. These outcomes are linked to person or professional success. It is forward moving and future oriented. Okay, now I'll use this to explain. I said not the organization. There are instances where organizations, we do 6 months coaching for managers, okay, and in order to help them, and help them help their teams. So the organization may say, okay, we want you to coach this person for 6 months. This is what we want to see. These are the gaps that the person has. Okay, and so we want, at the end of the coaching, these gaps, we want to see that there's been a shift. So they've given you the broad, what they want to see. Now, it is your job as a coach to work with that client to identify their own outcome, okay, and work through that.
So what have you identified as being the gap? What do you identify or project to be the solution to that? Or where would you like to be, having identified the gap?
In fact, even the questions, there are ways, we call them powerful questions, okay, so questions that stimulate new thinking, creates new awareness, and causes new actions to be taken by that individual within the outcome they have set. Okay, so there are powerful questions. I won't ask you questions like, what could you do differently? Okay, I would ask you questions like, what would success look like for you? Okay, so you're causing the person to think. What would success, so that this person would describe what success would look like. What would take you there? What is stopping you from getting into that? So there are questions. The whole idea of coaching questions is to stimulate new thinking in your client and to cause the client to obtain new awareness. Suddenly he leaves saying, I didn't know that. But all the answers are coming from him, really. I didn't know that, really. And then he will begin to take new actions that would help him achieve the outcomes that he himself stated when we started the coaching session. Okay, so I hope you've understood the differences.
Very much so. I'm sure that our listeners will also want to be a part of it. I mean, it brings me back to what Alvin Toffler said, that the illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read nor write, but those who cannot learn and relearn. I'm sure that my listeners have a lot to also say. This is Joy, Sika Twum here in the studio with us, talking about coaching, the vehicle to quantum growth. We'll take a quick message from our sponsors. When we come back, we get interactive.
Owning a home in a clean, serene, strategic neighborhood should not be a luxury, but a necessity. And at JL Properties, we make that dream a reality. JL Properties gives you value for your money in our fully gated and managed communities in North Airport, Achimota, and North Kaneshi. Enjoy reliable refuse collection, external area maintenance, and security in all JL communities. Make your home with us by logging on to jlpropertiesgh.com. JL Properties, the city's favorite developer.
Your favorite on-air business development program, Joy Business Masterclass, is in session, and you can interact with us on Facebook via the Joy 99.7 FM or Joy Business pages. If you tweet, the handle is at Joy 997 FM or at Joy Business GH. Don't forget to hashtag JBMasterclass. You can also call us on 0302 216541 or send your questions and contributions through to the WhatsApp number 0551 111997, and our facilitators will address your concerns. Attention everyone, class is in progress.
Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your superstation Joy 99.7. Today's edition of Masterclass is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle Good Energy, Goyle Yenara Yedia. Today's edition of Masterclass is also brought to us by JL Properties. JL Properties, they say the city's favorite developer. We're interactive right now. Numbers to call 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. You can also send us your comments on 055-1111-997. Do you have any motor vehicle of any kind? Because if you do, your oil marketing company of choice, Goyle, keeps making life ever so convenient. Goyle now accepts Momo for all fuel purchases. Just remember to Momo it at Goyle. And that is not all. You can use your bank card at any of our fuel stations to buy fuel. Goyle Good Energy, Goyle Yenara Yedia. JL Properties, the city's favorite developer. So according to Abraham Maslow, a home is a basic need, and the COVID-19 pandemic made this statement ever more true than ever. Owning a home in a serene, strategic neighborhood should not be a luxury, but a necessity. And at JL Properties, we make that dream a reality. JL Properties has been building homes for over a decade. Enjoy the ease of owning a fully completed home or choose from our off-plan packages. At JL Properties, you can make your internal adjustments to your home while it is still being built. Make your home with us today. Visit us at www.jlpropertiesgh.com or call on 0302 449 037. JL Properties, the city's favorite developer. Phone lines are now open 0302-216-541. You can also send us your comments on 055-1111-997. I've got a comment on social media. This one is from Note Dua. Note says, we often hear that coaching is best when you catch someone doing something right. Any comments on this? That's from Note Dua.
First of all, I want to say hello to Notedua.
Okay.
If he's a Notedua, I know.
He's listening to you.
You said coaching is when you catch someone doing something right.
Mm-hmm. Playing with the words there, isn't he?
Very much. Yes, I would say I agree with you. When you catch someone doing something right. When you catch someone, it depends on what your right means. Okay? And I would say it depends on what the right means, because what may seem right to one person may not seem right to another. But for me, coaching is when you see somebody feeling restless. It means that person is ready to move to his next level. Okay, and that is right. So that feeling is right. That feeling of, I feel like...
Even though discomforting.
Even though it's discomforting, it is right.
It's a signal to say it's time to move.
It's a signal to say that something needs to shift. Okay, so it is right in this context. The person feels there's more in me that could come out. I don't know how I could let that come out. The person feels that there's more I could do. The person feels I want to shift from where I am to another place, but I don't know. It's uncomforting, but it's a right feeling, because it's telling the person that transformation is about to take place. So I hope, Note, I've answered your question.
I'm sure that you've answered that question for more than just Note, because if you're in any situation and you're beginning to feel that nudging, that says I can do more. Not the one that you feel that you're not happy with your job. That one, it could be as a result of many things.
Yeah, but it's
including
still,
the fact that it's time to change.
Yeah, if you're not happy with your job, it means change. You see, change, what is change? Really? What's change? You see, so if you're not happy with your job, it could be you're not happy with the industry. It could be there's some skill sets you lack that you need to develop, but you are still open for coaching because you are ready to navigate that issue. Okay, and so yes, if you're not happy with your job,
I have a question.
yes.
And while we're waiting for the phone lines to ring, numbers to call again, 0302216541. Pick up that phone, give us a call. Let's talk about the different things we've heard today: coaching, mentoring, counseling, therapy. What do all those things mean to you? Which one have you been practicing? Have you been mixing them up? Have you not been mixing them up? Have you been doing it right? Pick up that phone. Let's share thoughts and become better for it. 0302216541. Or you can also send us your comments on 055-1111-997. I have a question. In all of these scenarios, what role does temperament play?
Temperament, I think, obviously cuts across in all the roles. if you take, what is temperament, first of all? I'm asking you.
Well, I have a definition in my mind.
So tell me your definition.
But I'd like,
and then I'll see how I'll show you how it shows up.
So, for example, I would define temperament to be a collection of a set of emotions, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, aspirations that mold a person. So we'll typically put them down into the 4 main ones that we know. But I suppose that people don't have to be in one box; they can move across boxes. So you can either be a choleric, or you can either be a sanguine, or you can be a melancholic, or you can be a phlegmatic, or you can be. Those are the ones that we know. But no one person is in one box. Sometimes we understand that people are a combination of a number of them, depending on what's going on.
People can shift, but people are more of one than the other.
Right.
Okay. Now you talked about emotions. You find all of that within a psychotherapy case, within a counseling case, within a mentoring case, emotions, athletic development case. So basically, I'm saying, if you talk about temperaments, it is a person. It is what makes us our wiring. Yeah, it's what creates our wiring. My temperament may be what it is, also by virtue of experiences, how I've been brought up. Okay, somebody may easily get angry over the least thing. And he wasn't born like that, okay? But as a result of maybe what he saw in his home, he has become like that, okay? And so in a coaching situation, for instance, we will go into that and we will look at the cause. And if that anger or that, it becomes such that he's now trying to kill people and hit people with things, then it has become a psychotherapist should address that. So basically, I'm saying our temperaments are.
Can that be genetic, though?
Genetic to kill people,
no,
or to harm
have
people.
The tendency that makes you want to hurt animals, and then you graduate to hurting people.
You know, we always say that the home is the first agent of socialization, and then there is the school, and then there is the society. Nobody was born that way. But you enter a home and you model behavior within the home. What you saw, the kind of exposure you got. Maybe you came from a home where you saw your father or your parents, violence, a lot of violence. So for you, violence is not mean. Okay, you have given a different meaning to violence. That is why when I talked about looking at your beliefs and looking at the patterns, it stems from a place of what do you believe, okay, and how have you been wired, and what meaning are you giving to the situations and the instances in your life for which that thing is okay for you. But you were not born like that.
It's interesting you mentioned that, and I know we're talking about business and all of that, but the home is the basic unit of society. So whether it's in the home, whether it's in the workplace, people learn by example. I think it was here on Joy FM, there was a show, and the question was asked, how do children learn? And I have always remembered the answer that I think the speaker, I can't quite remember who the speaker was, but said there are 3 ways that children learn, and I'm extending that to not just children, but we all learn. He said number 1 is by example, number 2 is by example, and number 3 is by example.
Yeah.
So I hear you when you say we model behavior, because it's what people see you do. That forms part of their orientation. I've always said that people are a function of their orientation.
Yes.
So all of that puts together and becomes the person.
And it makes you create a meaning. You see, they get imprinted in your subconscious. So your subconscious carries all the things you have seen and the pain and the emotions it's in your subconscious. So sometimes you're dealing with somebody and all of a sudden the person begins to, you said, but this thing that I said, there's something already, there's unfinished business in the subconscious. You get what I'm trying to say? So we model behavior and our environment influences us. That's why he said we will look at the patterns and your beliefs and what meaning you are giving to you. I'll give you an example. So there's an incident of a woman in leadership, and she had risen by virtue of the fact that she could, whatever she applies herself to, she could do it. However, she had very low self-esteem. And the reason was that she had been brought up being told that she can never be anything, that she had managed to become something, but she had not given a different meaning to that. Okay? So in her subconscious, she was pushing herself to prove that she could do something. However, within her was, I'm not good enough. When she's trying to do something, that thought comes, I'm not good enough. So there was the feeling of not being good enough. And it was standing in the way of her moving into another level in her life. So it was when that was removed. So what was standing in her way was just the meaning she had given to, she said the search was fat. Okay, from a child, she would never be anything. Men will not marry her. It's things like that. So these things stay in your subconscious, and until you can remove them, that's why when I move into transformational coaching, you would see how we have a way of breaking the inner barriers and creating a new story. Okay, that
as
allows
business
you
owners, as leaders, should we be mindful the words we use when we're dealing with our teams?
Yes, it says be careful what you say and preserve your own life, because a careless talker destroys himself, and you destroy others in the process. The way we deal with our teams,
you'll never amount to anything.
Yeah. As for you, hey,
shout out to some of the math teachers back in the day.
As for you, as for you, I don't know what will become of you.
Yeah.
And we say it as parents. We look in the society now and we look at our kids and we look at how they are turning out, and we need to go back and look at how are we parenting, what are we telling them, what are we imprinting in their subconscious, and how is it impacting on their behavior.
Last comment, let me see if I can get this through quickly. Your temperament, you didn't give me okay, I think this is still not. Your temperament is generally a stable disposition, but is variable on a situational basis. It determines and influences your interpretation and subsequent predictable responses and preferences. If we remember nothing from today's conversation, what should we remember, and what are we talking about next week?
Okay, if you remember nothing, remember that it's important to have knowledge. Okay, knowledge about...
It's power.
Yes, knowledge is power. Otherwise, first of all, you harm yourself and you harm others. Next week, we'll be talking about the various branches in coaching. Okay, we need to know the distinction between executive coaching, performance coaching, a business coach, a life coach, a skills development coach, a career coach. We need to know that, a transformational coach. Okay, so that I know who to refer who to. Okay, and then we would also be looking at transformational coaching. I'll put more emphasis there and let you know the reason why I talked about the women-centered approach to coaching and how the traditional coaching does not fully meet the needs of women who choose to actualize.
More incoming episodes.
Yes.
But just very quickly, if you need some help, you need to reach out to Auntie Joyce after this show. You can do that at searchac@yahoo.com. Searchac is one word, at yahoo.com, or you can go to their website at www.selfsearchgh.org. www.selfsearchgh.org. And at Self-Search, they coach organizational leaders, they train companies for success. They also offer 6 months coaching training for managers to elevate themselves and their teams, and they support women to step into that next level of greatness. So by all means, do reach out to Self-Search. This has been Masterclass here on your Superstation. God willing, we come your way with yet another exciting edition next week. Thank you for joining us, and see you same time next week.